All right, peace, y'all. This is day 23, week 6 of the work-based learning program. About to get into some, I guess, diving deeper into some of the things we looked into earlier, like reading through some of the policies and answering questions or discussing things if and when necessary, as we can get a good understanding of the stuff that are here. So. Thanks for tapping in, Billy, and Tutton. If someone else comes in, we'll invite them in and continue from there. So I'll pull up the screen. So yeah, today going deeper into selections of co-ops and practices. I wanted to start with a list of things that you just cooperatives, collectives, groups are gonna have to think about in addition to forming their bylaws and thinking through membership classes and board of directors and that kind of thing. So this, list of 22 things is, some of the things may be found in the bylaws, like distribution of profits, fate of the company, selection of board of directors. But a lot of the things on this list are things you're going to find in policies or practices manual, some kind of handbook that was created to, identify and document the ways that work happens within the co-op or collective, and the way that documenting and getting on the same page with the way these kinds of decisions that have to be made, they will be made, and so it's not like a point of contention or issue when we get to it. And so, yeah, things well, I'll go to the next slide because those same decisions are mapped on this model, which I find really helpful and interesting as a way to look at the ways things can be delegated or put into the hands of certain groups. And I think I'll start from the outside and work my way in. Things like the fate of the company, if it's going to merge or sell major stuff, if it's how it selects board of directors, those kinds of practices are normally found in the bylaws, always found in the bylaws, really. But there may be I don't know, certain policies or practices in terms of the ways elections happen or something like that, they may be in a policy manual. But otherwise, you'll find the core of that stuff in the cooperative bylaws. When in terms of setting and making decision-making strategy, how profits are distributed or how management is selected, not all of that stuff is necessarily in the bylaws. It can be, distribution of profits, at least the minimum for what's required is in the bylaws. But often the bylaws can say, the board of directors will decide. And that's as much as it needs to say. And so if that's the case, then there will be a board handbook or policy manual about the ways that we're doing these kinds of things. It's not always the case that a cooperative or collective will shift or will let these things sit in the board of directors. Sometimes when a cooperative is small, or maybe when a cooperative or collective is large, but they have a certain set of values, they choose to let the workers take on that stuff rather than splitting it up between two different groups. Getting down into the green level about how folks are laid off, or what we're trying to do in terms of employment, the strategy we have around getting the work done and getting it out there, and how we're raising capital, the firing, as well as marketing and advertising. That's all something that I guess in a traditional company, there would be a suite of executives who would have a chief executive officer, chief operating officer, chief marketing officer, chief, etc. And those are the people who would be like setting those policies, if not for, the board of directors or the executive director. In a cooperative, because we're building this thing together, we get to, initially decide like how we want for those things to land, and how much we want for everyone to participate in these kinds of decisions, or how much we want to split them up into committees maybe, or just maybe we want to have a group of managers that helps us with that stuff. It's kind of it's kind of up to us, but we definitely want to put some intention and thought into that in the beginning. Going into this lower fourth level, the employee participation in red, stuff like employee compensation, whether things are purchased, how equipment is laid out, if folks are getting promotions, like safety rules, and hiring. That stuff can, like at a minimum, receive employee participation, like even in a kind of command and control, hierarchical, super hierarchical type of business. But these are also, decisions that we need to make a policy around, and the practices around how we're doing this, because we don't necessarily want just anyone going out and purchasing assets on behalf of the company. Like we want to have, something in place that says like, okay, you can do this if, X, Y, and Z. And then the last, or the most central thing down at the bottom in terms of like job assignments, how fast it goes, like the kinds of committees and working conditions. Those are also something that we're going to want to figure out. What is our intention around it, and how are we making decisions? Like, are we allowing for, folks to like basically be completely self-directed and like choose a bunch of those things, or is the organization like setting a standard and having folks buy into that? I'm going to break for a second. I'll let you just look at that. Let me know if you have any questions. Water. All right, so this slideshow, which is coming from Democracy at Work Institute, they're talking about how it's helpful, when small, to create 3 policies at the launch of your co-op, or 3 sets of policies, really. Governance policies and decisions, that kind of like high level, how do we set, like at a base, the decision-making process that we have, like how do we set the strategy, how do we set the way we manage ourselves. And then the management policies, like when we're in that management, like moving forward the work, like, what are our intentions, expectations, etc. And then operationally, like as the people doing the work, what are our intentions, expectations? And this could, all of this stuff can be, they describe it as living. I think, we should be thinking of a lot of our documents that way, and, they don't necessarily have to be set in stone, but we do want to, document or take a snapshot of what we're thinking in a certain time, so others can come into it and we have an archive. I think that was the last thing. Okay. All right, so I have up a few different like policy documents. One is so how would I say? One is the like policies for the staff collective inside of Sustainable Economies Law Center, the worker self-directed nonprofit. Another set is a manual that the Law Center created for cooperatives after helping a few. so that there would be a set of templates, samples for folks to pull from. So we'll also read some from this. And lastly, wanted to introduce you all to the board handbook orientation guide that the Law Center has for their board of directors. It's fairly simple. Some of them can be more complex, but essentially this is laying out the mission and how the Law Center does what it does. And then it lays out what the board of directors duties are, and then for specific officers, like what they have to do. And then there's some more background info. So I was hoping that like we could review the tables of contents like on ourselves for a second, and I'll go through each one. And if there's something that jumps out, let's talk about that now. I don't have any specific policy that I want for you all to know. I just want for you all to get familiar with looking and creating these things. So I'll keep this up on the screen for a second, so you all can see what the table of contents is looking like, and then we'll go to the next couple documents. Take note if there's something you want to talk about more. Okay, I'm going to switch to the other one. Okay. Um, so very dense, 42 pages, right? Lots of sections and clauses in here. Some of it is, mandated. Um, some of it is, generated from the group. The next table of contents is for for a self-directed nonprofit. It will likely have similar contents to the handbook, but some things will be different since they're structured differently. So let's just read through this. Take note if there's any section in here you'd like to check out, read more about, discuss, ask questions.
Right now, I see one of the key points out of the table of contents that I would like. I mean, I have to study all, of course, but one of the main things that stick out to me is the governance right now, because we're still in the, structure mode of, creating the outlining guidelines, for everybody to follow through on, and position it and everything. And as a business owner, and a new business owner in this industry that I'm in now, and creating this co-op, that's one of the main things that I have to study on to be able to facilitate to the rest of the team, so everybody could be able to run things smoothly without any confusion. So it could be more of a well-oiled machine.
Okay, great. Thank you, Billy. I'll make sure to, I take note, and I'll make sure to teach towards that as we're closing out.
No doubt.
All right. I'll scroll us through the rest of the table of contents so we can see if there's any other things.
Rights and responsibility was perfect. I didn't even see that one until you scroll down. Is on the top page.
Yes. And number 3?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
Sure. Like those. Well, the first 3, governance is important. Staff rights and responsibilities are important as well, but the operation is like the sole thing. That's why I was like looking at all of the table of contents. I was like, this is something that I know I have to really dig deep on studying all, but like those 3 stick out to me of importance, because it's like the financials and everything, once the responsibilities and everything in operations and all that stuff is in order, the financials and everything, it kind of like trickle down and fall into place once everything else is set.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you, Billy. Anything you want to throw into?
No, I think that was dope. I've really just explained that. Yeah, I don't have to.
All right, cool. So I'll go to the board manual first for the Law Center, just because it has like a good summary of how governance works within this nonprofit. There are staff trustees who manage the organization and fulfill its mission and interest of the benefit of society. And then there are the board of directors who provide oversight and stewardship over democratic processes. And so, yeah, there's more about the duties and stuff. what that looks like in terms of the Law Center in 2016. This is what, this is how they structured their org chart. Let me see if I can, or how we structured it, but I wasn't there. So there's a general circle, and this general circle is where like all staff come to make organizational wide governance and strategy decisions. And these staff are also the ones that fill up the rest of these circles. So you got things from grants, internal resilience, fundraising, etc., like major program areas outside of admin, like farm and money and worker co-ops, etc. And then there's like a section where they're, talking about the different programs they're launching. A section where they're talking about, some of the work groups. And then some of the other things that they're doing. Since this was created in 2016, the Law Center has done some restructuring, and they've also reevaluated this chart. So it doesn't look exactly as it looks now. But yeah, that's just like a viewpoint into how they were thinking about it at that time. The board of directors, you can see, is over here. And this group of people are the ones that are providing oversight over the staff. Then there's also an advisory board that's providing support to the staff. Swinging into the model handbook. Let's see if they have something about governance or like overarching. Not quite what I would want to show. Let's see. 1 second. I'm going to pull up the bylaws of EB-PREC, East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative, because they have a pretty good like intro section into governance as well. And like showing how things are supposed to flow into each other. So they start their bylaws by, stating their mission and some points of unity, which is something I think we should all consider. But what they've done is they have three governance, or there's three categories of groups that they're looking at when thinking about governance in this cooperative. There are the owners. There's 4 classes of owners. This is the group that EB-PREC is seeking to benefit, or the groups, I should say. And these groups elect the board of directors that has like oversight over the staff. The staff are sort of like self-directed in that the board of directors doesn't hold much governance. It doesn't help very much with like overseeing management or strategy or that kind of thing. It's mainly just overseeing the staff and making sure that their work is mission aligned. And then the staff are the ones who are going to be, creating a bunch of policies and practices, both like governance stuff, management stuff, as well as operational stuff. Like all of that stuff will be found in the staff. So just wanted to throw that in there in terms of overall governance. On this like employee policy handbook for the Law Center, again, we looked at the like the board handbook just a moment ago, but this is the org policies handbook. And so the way that they're describing it here is that the general circle is the primary body responsible for managing the Law Center in accordance with other board resolutions. The general circle has the authority to create other like circles or committees, depending on what you want to call them, as well as make governance decisions that impact all staff and circles. And so there's some talk about what happens when a new circle is created. It should have a purpose, initial accountabilities, like the list of things they'll be doing, and members who will like carry that stuff out. As you're like diving deeper into how to do like the management part, which is like creating roles and responsibilities and stuff, you'll kind of see that roles and circles are fractal, fractilic, I don't know, because they can kind of like scale in or out of one another. And so like, you know, when we're starting small, like one person may essentially be holding the work of a circle, but it's just one person. But, you know, other people can come in and hold that work as well. And, you know, we can talk about how that has held. Or, you know, we could just like give someone a role that has a bunch, you know, whatever the list of responsibilities are, and they can fill that out. And if that role gets too, like, it starts feeling like it's too much, we can say, oh, let's transform that into a circle, and have other people hold that. I'm speaking about the way that the Law Center is doing their thing, which is a mix between holacracy, which is a certain kind of like governance style, decision-making style, and sociocracy, which is another kind of decision-making governance style. Excuse me. So that's what happens when these circles are created from the general circle. Those circles could then make other smaller circles. So if you all understand the fractilic thing, well, I hope it makes sense for you. So these circles have to keep the general circle, like everyone else, updated. The circles will have standing meetings in this 2016, well, still now too. So they're standing meetings, so everyone knows, like, you know, when the topics related to that circle are going to be discussed, or, you know, when decisions related to that topic are going to be discussed. Early on, there was also governance meetings so that they could like focus in on creating these structures. Since I work there, I know that these governance meetings don't happen anymore, but there have been other things that have taken its place. So it's not like, yeah, it's just kind of, yeah, it's a living organization, I guess, in addition to having like living documents. This is the process that the organization uses to do meetings, make decisions. Its intentions or values is around like giving everyone a space to talk and not having to try and do that like double dutch to get into the conversation. So yeah, that is that read through for today. Appreciate the questions, Billy, and looking forward to checking in with you next week and more on this stuff. That wraps us up for today. We'll see you tomorrow for the Q&A.
Definitely can't wait.
Take care, man. Peace out.
You too. Blessings, guys.
So,